go ahead and edit that config/deploy.rb. First thing I'm going to do is change the domain, and I'm just going to use the IP address that I had previously noted from the Ubuntu installation 2.7. Next, I'm going to choose a name for the application. This is arbitrary, but you want to choose something that is useful because that's going to be used on the server with certain file paths. I'm going to set the deployment user as the default since that's what I set up on the server. And I'm going to add an extra role here, SCM, for the source code control server. The Rails machine gem will build that for me automatically later on. Finally, I like to do this with SSH keys, makes things simpler. So down here in SSH options for keys, you want to provide the path to your SSH key. The public key is actually what will be used, but you want to just list it without .pub on the end because the whole process will append that to the end when it needs to copy that over. You also need to make sure that your database YAML file is correct because the Rails machine gem, which is a part of this, is going to use those settings to actually create a database for you on the server, on the MySQL server. So the username, the password, all those things, make sure those are accurate to what you want because that will be created on the server later on. So to make things easier for us, let's run cap setup SSH keys. That's going to copy my local SSH keys over to this server so that I can just log in immediately without having to type my password. However, you do need to set up your local SSH keys first, so if you've never done that, you're going to have to do that on your local machine separately. Here's the big one, cap install Rails stack. That's going to go through and install all kinds of software on there using the apt-get package management system. Gem has this all set up, knows which ones you need, makes Ruby, Rails, MySQL Server, all that kind of stuff. I've sped it up here. It may take a couple minutes for you, even 10 or 15 minutes. Next, news break. Actually, this has been changed. Instead of cap setup, you could do cap deprec _setup. That's so it doesn't conflict with the same task of the same name in Capistrano. So cap deprec _setup. The database password here that wants is the root password for the database, which to start with is just blank. So you can just leave that blank and secure your database later if you want to, but to start with, this is going to create the database on the server. An included task here from the Rails machine gem, setup SCM. This is a great little task that actually creates a repository on the remote server, copies your entire application into it, ignores different things like the log files and other kinds of things, and then does a full checkout in one directory up, and then from there you can change into that directory and you're up and running with a full source code control system. So that's, I'm going to go up one directory, my Rails app machine, and if I do it svn info right here, I can see that this is actually checked into that Ubuntu server that I just built. Pretty cool. Next, I'm going to do a deployment now with Capistrano. I'm going to deploy with migrations so that any database migrations will actually be run on the remote server. May have a query here for your subversion password. Go ahead and type that in. Just be the password for the deploy user. And now we have a full setup. Mongrel is running. Last thing we need to do is just restart Apache so that all the settings, config files, all those other things that deprec gem created for us are set up. Now we can view the actual site, 192.168.2.7, and there we go. Welcome aboard. If I click this little Ajax link, we can see that Rails and Mongrel are actually running. There you go, full Rails stack on Ubuntu.